Hello, everybody, and hi to those watching on record. This time it is recorded. Any first timers, this is our free spotlight webinar series where we invite special guests to come in and share experiences, showcase their expertise, and provide you with some insightful takeaways, which is always good. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of introducing Ruth again, who will be taking us through the impacts of transitions in life and the workplace. The chat is enabled, so keep the questions coming, and Ruth will get to those at different parts of her presentation. So without further ado, Ruth, it's over to you.
Thank you. Hope that the gods of the technical world look after us this time. So welcome. Thank you for joining us, whether you're here live or recorded. That's me. I've added today's date on as well to the slides because we did it twice, so it doesn't matter which one you were at. Hopefully I will perform just as well as I did last week, but who knows? Every day's a new day, hey? So my name's Ruth Harrison Swift, and I'm here to basically help you get through life a little bit easier. But as with all of our Thrive presentations, it is important to recognise that we're all unique. We all have different perspectives, and we'll come across that word a few times today, and we'll react to things differently. So it's a safe place to share your experiences if you'd like to. Whatever your background are, whatever your thoughts and feelings are, they're completely safe in this space. And today, please feel free to ask any questions. I particularly love this picture. This is a Thrive one we use for other things, but it's perfect for this topic. It's enabling the coming of spring, showing the coming of spring rather, and changing of seasons, which of course is a change that we have absolutely no control over. So your well-being is important. My role is to make sure that you're being looked after. You don't have to join in any discussions, but you are welcome to. We can always do that. Leave at any time. It's being recorded. And so I am here to improve your well-being, not detract from it. So what to expect today? Please pop in the chat if there's something specific you'd like to cover today. Obviously, the topic is around transition and change, but if there's something specific within that field that you're aware of, just pop it in there and I'll do my best to check in on the chat, or Emma will give me a nudge if needed. I do have a plan. Obviously, I'm not relying on you putting things in the chat, but we are here to accommodate. So we'll look at navigating change and transition smoothly. We'll explore the terminology and what it can mean for us, and why they're different as well, what the difference is in them. We'll be looking at reducing your stress and increasing engagement, and whether that's you engaging with clients, customers, or employees, it's still increasing engagement through embracing the concept of change and how. And we'll look at the personal impact and how to manage it as well. And of course, embracing evolution, because that's what change is. We're evolving. It's personal growth, and it's a really great opportunity, though I know that some would argue with me on that point at some times. So that's what we are about today: navigating smoothly, reducing stress, and fostering a growth mindset. Very well used term, but I do rather like it. Who am I, first of all? So my business is the Kaleidoscopes, and basically I'm here to help everybody's life go smoother. Obviously, you can only touch so many people in one go. But I'm a mother of two amazing humans, and we've got two very fluffy black cats. And I share this because they may come in and out of the room during the recording. They slept through last week, so I'm hoping they stay out of the way this time because they can cause havoc. So yeah, my business is called the Kaleidoscopes for a number of reasons. I really like butterflies, is one of them. And kaleidoscope is the collective noun for a group of butterflies. I also like the fact that they represent transition so beautifully, and they are beautiful. So there's nothing to not like about them really, except when they lay their eggs in my kale. That's not good. Apart from that, they're lovely. So I'm a qualified life and business coach specialising in transitions, and I deliver interactive workshops, usually in person, also webinars, but more interactive, so that workplace cultures can better understand how life transitions impact individuals, how organisational change impacts the life of employees, and by understanding from both perspectives, gaining a greater sense of empathy, making that the norm in an organisation, because that increases the engagement I spoke about just a few minutes ago. The staff retention is higher, And so costs are lower, and what company doesn't want to keep their costs low? So why do I do this? I've got more than a few scars from big changes in life, but these events are not who I am. They have contributed enormously to the human I've become and will continue to become. I'm still becoming. And I've made quite a few discoveries along the way. But the biggest one was a deep understanding of the impact of change, physically and psychologically, and how better to navigate it. And we can all have done things differently. We've all got those sorts of experiences. So I want to share that with other people so that they can get through things a little less bumpy than perhaps I once did. Now that I know what I'm doing, it's much easier. So as a neurodiversity in the workplace trainer with Thrive, I also have quite a lot of ADHD qualities. And with all the experience of those aforementioned changes, coping with change and transition with a neurodiversity can be even trickier. In beautiful ADHD style, I ended up hyper-focusing on the topic of transition and the research that's been carried out over the years so that I could better understand and serve others. So, what's the difference? Change versus transition. Put simply, change is an event. Transitions are what we experience to navigate the change. So it's how we process things along the way and how we manage that experience. You might have gathered from some of the pictures so far that there's a bit of an Alice in Wonderland theme going on here. I hope you're all familiar with the story of Alice's adventures in Wonderland. It's perfect for illustrating aspects of change and transition. So you'll see all those pictures coming along. So there are two different types of change. I'll show you here. Here's the cards painting the white roses red because that's what the Queen wanted, and the Queen gets what the Queen wants. And she gets that without even consulting her people. She just tells them what to do. But that's not a really great way of handling change. We all know that. But this is what organisational change used to look like. In a lot of companies now, it's portrayed that there are consultations happening. But at the end of the day, the people at the end actually managing the change on the ground don't feel like they've been consulted, or if they have been consulted, they don't feel listened to. So this is where a whole different approach is needed for managing change and transition within organisations. Too many people like the old-fashioned ways, like the Queen. So our next example is of Alice drinking potions so she can become physically smaller, so she can follow the rabbit into the Vale of Tears. So this is a conscious choice that Alice makes. Now, with these types of changes, there is a motive behind the why, whether it's organisational or personal. But when it comes from someone or something out of our control, it can be harder to swallow. No pun intended there. Transitions require navigating. So here's Alice having shrunk, swimming with some of the other animals through her own tears. So there are things that lead up to and follow this event called change. And some changes we don't even notice. As an example, personal development. We want to improve ourselves, our lives, have brighter futures, a bigger house maybe, or a new car. And after months of self-development, book reading, or going to workshops, getting a coach, watching inspirational people, so many more things that can be done, we need to realise that we've made a big change. When somebody we see and we've not seen them for a while says to us, wow, you've changed. And that's when we can reflect, no, actually, yes, I have. I've done this and this. So you've done a lot of transitions to be that changed person. Other big changes in life, this is not a limited list by any stretch of the imagination, are things like marriage, divorce, being made redundant, moving house, retiring, starting a new job. And some of these are self-instigated and some are part of the natural order of life. As a society, though, we are conditioned to complain about it. We even complain about the change in the weather unless it's how we want it to be. If it's sunny for too much longer, let's face it, people will be wanting rain because we need the grasses to grow. But we still embrace the sunshine when it comes. And it is a shame that we don't embrace all of these events because they're all an opportunity for growth. So navigating the journey smoothly. So I don't know if the word navigate is a little Latin lesson for you if you don't know it. It comes from the Latin navigare or navigare. We don't know the pronunciation because there aren't any Romans around to correct our pronunciation, but navigare meaning to go on a journey. So we won't sugarcoat it. It's not a stress-free, all-inclusive holiday. I'm sure we'd all like one of those. And very few people actually like or admit to liking change. And that's because we get used to the way things are. We don't like it when a new system is put in place at work, or we've now got to, the big changes coming in doing self-assessment tax returns, for example. That's huge change coming. We're going to have to do things a very different way in the coming years. Do we like it? Not necessarily, but actually, is it helping our brains to continue to grow? Yes, it is. So it's not a bad thing. We don't like it necessarily when our relationships change, but they do change because we are constantly evolving. And I've already talked about the weather. A little note here to talk about the weather, but we've done that. In order to preserve a sense of well-being and sanity, we've got to emphasize that we've got to learn to embrace the journey that life is. So from a psychological point of view and from a physiological point of view, because not only do they impact us psychologically with sometimes the pain, the emotional pain that we go through when we're going through changes, that also has an impact on us physically from a cortisol point of view, mostly with the release of cortisol through stress and worry. That can do all sorts of damage to our bodies. Other changes in life that happen that are perhaps happier ones or just different, but let's call them different for the moment while we explore it some more. Things like impacts on our bodies, puberty, for example, all genders go through puberty. That's a huge change. That's our first big change after being born. Then there's pregnancy. Hormones change in pregnancy, and they change in childbirth, and they change in menopause. Now, obviously, those last three are all women, but they are psychological and physiological changes. Our brains are actually rewiring through all of these events. And we do often struggle to comprehend what's going on in us as well as around us. We react to things differently. And we don't have very much control. So understanding that we don't have that control is one of the key things to think about, because if you've got no control over a situation, don't fight it. Do what you can to get through it. And they really ought to be looked at as times they're times of renewal, a bit like spring. And winter isn't a bad time because spring is coming. So it's opportunities for renewal and times to celebrate our growing wisdom. So we go into puberty and we come out of puberty the other side and we're wiser than we were before. Get to menopause age and our brains have changed. And yes, we might forget things a lot. I'll probably forget words in this, which is why I have prompts. But our brains do change and we become wiser. I'm sure you're all aware of the old phrase that the older we get, the more we realize we don't know. But that's proper wisdom right there. So time is non-linear. Excuse me, all this talking. We are raised in our society, this isn't a parent thing, this is just society. Society tells us that basically this is our life. We're supposed to do things in a linear fashion. So this is what we're supposed to do. Oh, jumping ahead of myself. So we're born, we get educated, get a job, we explore some, we might get married, have children, retire, and then the inevitable thing of death. But of course, it doesn't happen like that. Life is not linear. The beginning and the end are pretty much guaranteed, but the rest is up to you and you can choose. For example, getting educated. Personally speaking, I feel the day I stop learning will lead me to a very quick end destination, because I want my brain to continue to grow and to learn. And that's good for everybody. And I didn't go to university. I didn't get a university education until I started when I was 39. So basically 40. And then I went again, another degree, when I was 50. So there's no reason why we can't get educated our whole lives. It doesn't have to be the so-called school years. And I did have a successful corporate career before having a family. So it wasn't that I needed to have that education in that order to have a successful career. The exploring part, that's fun. We can do that anytime. We're doing it from the moment we're born. Literally from the moment we are put on our mother's chests when we're born, and that's where we should be put when we're born. We're exploring. physically exploring to find our food, the basic survival instincts. So embracing this concept to get the best out of life through exploration and to learn and grow. It doesn't have to be crazy stuff. Some people get their kicks out of climbing walls, for example, or bungee jumping, which personally I think is bonkers and wouldn't ever have gone near it, and nor will I. And I don't need to even touch wood about that because it's not my thing. Each to their own. There are simple things we can do to explore. For example, a day like today, beautiful sunshine, it's warm, it's not hot, it's just beautiful. The blossom is all still on the trees and still coming. Just have a look. Look up when you go for a walk, look up. Make sure you're looking up and you're really taking in the magic that you're surrounded by. Getting married, I'm just going to pick a few more off this list. It's a societal construct. We don't see our cats and dogs out there getting married as fellow mammals. Some mammals, yes, they stay together for life, but not all of them. Certainly not cats, dogs, and horses, and many I can think of at all, actually. Where I'm getting to with this is when a relationship is over, because they don't all last. Again, that's something I've been through. We shouldn't judge, but society still judges. Oh, she's divorced. Oh, they're divorced. There's this little hint of judgment, and we shouldn't be doing that because things change, people change, and relationships change. And it doesn't mean it's a failure. Absolutely not. It's just change, and we're all growing at different rates. So if we don't grow together, then naturally that's going to lead to some differences and risks of growing apart. But that's okay. And if you want to get married again, go for it. It's your life. My basic rule of life is be kind. And the next one here is having children. Procreating as human beings, I think, is an interesting thing because we're physically capable of having babies from as soon as puberty is underway. That frightens everything out of me when I think about that, with things like 14-year-olds being able to have a baby. Can you imagine being 14 and having a baby? It sounds scary to me. But we are physically capable of doing it. We're not emotionally capable of doing that. We're just not equipped for the task emotionally, at least in our society as it is today. As it was 2 million, even a few thousand years ago, we might have been able to cope then, but not in our current society. We are too fast-paced. Life is too demanding. The world expects far more of us. There's one big change I haven't made. Next one on the list is retiring. I've been made redundant. I've chosen to move on to different roles and different careers, but I've never retired. I'm told it's much the same, but with less purpose. What is life without a purpose? There's a question to reflect on. And why retire? You don't have to retire, but you can choose to. And you can choose to look at retirement as an opportunity to do something new, to change a career. So it's less of retiring and just moving on to something new. And it doesn't matter what age that is, you can still grow. And then, of course, finally, we'll leave that inevitable one there. That will happen, but it's not necessarily going to happen in that order. It might be that we don't get married, we don't have children, but we do explore a whole lot. We do keep going back and getting more education and more education. We can do it however we want. It's just losing that concept of life as linear. On that note of the rather sad ending there, in the words of Prince, I think it's in the song Let's Go Crazy. There's a line in there where he says the afterworld, and then it's Let's Go Crazy. And I quite like that, welcome to the afterworld. And Peter Pan is even more favourite one, where he said to die would be a very great adventure. So you can see life and life events are not about anything other than how we frame it. Embrace saying goodbye to the concept of a linear life would be my top tip there. Be random. So let's have a look at the organisation perspective. This is the old way. Hopefully you can see this. If you're on a phone screen, you might not be able to see it, so we'll read it out. Bit of a cartoon. So this is what companies were doing, and it's not what we want to see in the world, but it's often the perspectives, like I mentioned before. So the leader of the meeting is saying, so in closing, change is good. Change is inevitable. Change is exciting. Questions? And all of them have got the thought bubble thinking, who's getting fired? So let's have a look again from that organisational perspective about reducing stress and increasing engagement. So this is looking at it the other way around, not the cartoon picture we just saw. This, what I'm going to go through now, is really high level. There's only so much time that we can fit in for it. So it is super high level. So with organizations, there's always going to be change for growth, for restructure, for greater productivity or profit, streamlining. A couple of questions to think about is, what if we do support the change? And what if we don't? How do we communicate best so our people feel involved, engaged, and excited? What are the costs of change? And what are the costs of not changing? What are the implications for the business? What are the implications for the people? What are the implications from the bottom line, from the profit? And what needs to change with the product or service in order for this to go smoothly? And of course, what we might like to look at is, what would things look like in our perfect world? If we've got this perfect world of the best possible solution for somebody who always knocks at the door when you're doing a webinar, didn't put the sticker on the door, somebody else will get it. The best possible solutions is, imagine the best business, you've got the right amount of clients, you've got the perfect product, and you've got that productivity going. What does it look like? Imagine what it looks like and embrace it from that way. So communication is the key. Oh, there's things in the chat too. Gabriella found the life expectations of society really interesting as a neurodiverse person. It seems to me, from my own experience and lots of other neurodiverse people, I know we tend to be what's considered behind the norm. We seem to take longer to mature in many ways. Have you noticed that in the work you do? Yeah, absolutely. And I'm with my own neurodiverse family as well. The different way that we develop emotionally and how we cope with situations is really interesting. Excellent YouTube video of a headmaster talking to an assembly of kids about how their lives are set when a teacher intervenes and sets out all the alternatives. Ooh, that sounds interesting, Jackie. If you can get your hands on it and pop it in the chat, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Yes, so in organisations, this perfect world, that's where we were. We're looking at the perfect world, how we would want our business to be, or even our personal life, how would we want it to be? The key thing is the communication aspect and how we communicate, not only how we communicate with others, but how we self-talk and self-coach as well. There'd be a lot more, or a greater sense of belonging with more engagement. Employees feel more valued, or you feel more valued as an individual as well. We feel like we can contribute more and we're listened to, and that contribution is wanted. And also, when big change happens, whether it's organisational or individual, getting the right support to prepare for that growth and change. And I will keep calling it growth because it is growth. A lot of people need more support to be able to cope with that growth, to be ready to embrace the growth of the organisation itself, or the changes to their relationships or their own work or their own life. And relationships in organisations as well are absolutely vital at all levels. It doesn't matter whether you mopping the floors or making the decisions at the top. In some cases, it's both, of course, but they are vital. The outcome of change, or goal, if you prefer that word instead of outcome, it's got to be in line with those relationships. So there's no point in having fantastic relationships, but no growth. And if we just look at growth and we don't consider the relationships, then we might grow, but we lose all the people. It costs a fortune. Ultimately, it's detrimental to everybody. And we can have all those amazing goals as well. But if we don't have everything in place, the right goals, and nurture the relationships, then growth doesn't happen in all areas. Last year, this has only happened once, thankfully. I was told by a workshop participant that they were fed up, that was the words, fed up with being made to be more resilient by their employer, which I found quite fascinating, that they felt that they were being made to be more resilient. This particular person worked for a government department, and you don't need to know an awful lot about the government to know it's going to change. Every approximately 4 years, change is going to happen. So going and working for an organisation where you can see there is going to be change. Yes, I think a little bit of resilience perhaps could have been encouraged by their employees in a different way, more one-to-one rather than workshop with 50 other people. And it's a rapidly changing world anyway. So we do need resilience. What we don't need is resistance. And that's resistance within ourselves, not just pushing back against other people. So yes, so this particular organisation was dead set to change. But there we are. I do wonder if she's still there. On the sunnier side of things now, so change is inevitable. I think everybody would agree with that. And we've probably fairly well established that. So what do we do? So first, we have to accept it. That's the first step. It's a bit like some of you may have heard of the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross grieving process. Again, it's a little bit linear because we experience different things at different times. But with anything, any change in life, the first thing we have to do is accept that it's happened. Even something like becoming pregnant, planned or otherwise, accept that it's happened because it's there. You can't argue with it. It's the same with any change. New haircut even, it's happened. The next thing that you can do once you've accepted is to mark the event, name it, celebrate it. There's lots of cultures that still do it. And celebrating it is the next chapter. Oh, Jackie's lost sound. Can you still hear me, Emma? Okay.
Yes.
Hopefully you get that back. Gabby can still hear me too. Okay. I hope it comes back for you, Jackie. Where did I get to? Look at my slide again. There we are. There's the quote. There's the quote we were talking about before. Yeah, so accept the event and then with other cultures, mark it, name it, and then celebrate it. Celebrating is the last chapter of that particular change and transition, but it's not the end of your story. It's just the next paragraph, the next chapter, the next section. The next thing is letting go. And I don't mean forgetting, just not wallowing or dwelling on something too long. Imagine it rather as a skin that you can shed so that you can grow. Or one of the little hermit crabs that goes and moves into a bigger shell, a bigger vacant shell as they grow. Allow yourself to have that growth and shed the old skin or shed the old shell. And then create you. And this is where this quote comes in. Life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. One of my favourite quotes that, and now we know thanks to Jude, it's George Bernard Shaw. So do think about that. Really think about that. It's only when you read it a few times and you really think about it that it starts to mean something personally. Next steps would be sharing your new vision with people you know will support you. Seek them out. Find your people, find your tribe. Jackie's back, fantastic. And people who will support you, people who will believe in the possibilities that you believe in. There's no point having people around you who aren't going to support you and hold you up. Nobody needs holding back, nobody. And then once you've got through all of that, then it's time for your relaunch. So imagine this is the process of the caterpillar on the picture here, doing all these different steps. Made the decision, he's going to do it, and then turns into a beautiful butterfly. There's the launch. So relaunch, you walk through the doors of your life like you're walking out onto a stage. I think I demonstrated it last week, and I'd seen this at an event I attended recently, where this gentleman's 2-year-old son, when he was 2, he would walk up to doors and they would magically open. We've all seen children doing this, and it's super sweet. And he would walk and he would open his arms like, I'm here. Didn't say anything, just presented himself like that. And I think that's the thing. Be proud of you. Imagine you've got your super cape on and be proud of what you've done with your cloak or cape. And seeing that before it happens, trusting in yourself. And then really finally, tell people like stories. People like hearing about people. People ultimately connect with people. So tell your story to whoever will listen. Your best friend, the world, write a book, tell your story. We do have the freedom to think for ourselves and how we choose to respond to situations. It is all part of the emotional intelligence growth. How to embrace neurodifferences and support the navigation. Now, obviously, some of you know about some of this already. There will be a few sweeping statements here. I must warn you, we are too tight on time to be able to go into it fully. So with the addition of other needs, and they're not limited to neurodiversity, a few simple extra things to think about. as well, but so there are sweeping generalizations coming. So let's pop these other words up here. I'll just leave those up there for you. As an example, if somebody with autism, in regards to communication, you would need to work with them in a very clear, concise manner, not too wordy, or they'll have checked out by the end of the first paragraph. Communicating properly, and especially with autistic people, and you will reach your goal because they will be focusing 100% on the outcome with a great depth of determination. Somebody with ADHD might be a good fit for the process of creativity and change. They might be the person who gets the ideas of how to and when to and who to engage. This might be the person to get others engaged and get other people actually working through what's going to happen next with the transitions and changes that are coming. There are a ton more neurodiversities, and in fact, there are a lot more diversities generally. So being clear in communication is super, super important. Ask and don't expect. Actually, just going back to the neurodiversities, there's also things to consider with communication like dyslexia, where if it's written communication, you might not only lose the person who's autistic at the end of the first paragraph, the person with dyslexia may struggle to read to the end of the paragraph. So be super, super clear. Ask, don't expect. Don't assume that either everybody around you knows what you need. And also, if you are not that person, if you're the person who is supporting employees, don't assume that you know what they need, because we're all individuals and we need to be spoken to and dealt with as individuals. And then look at life and events from the perspective of others. I had a coachee recently who was quite unhappy with her role. She'd gone back to work after having a baby, and her role hadn't changed as such, or rather her title hadn't changed, but the work that she was doing had changed, and somebody else was still doing it and had the same title but didn't have the years and years of experience that she had. So she was a bit put out by this, and she was really going down deep into the why me? Why does she have this? Why did they get that? And she was looking at it from the perspective of the victim, of being the victim. So I challenged her to think about it differently, to think about what it might look like for the other person who'd been covering the role on maternity leave. And then this person comes back, and how threatened might she feel? And we talked through a process of looking at different perspectives. And she started thinking what the other person might be thinking and what they might be doing and how scared they might be, how put out they might be. That led her onto her conclusion of, actually, what am I complaining about? I've got a great job with a great company, fantastic benefits, and it's 3 days a week. It's exactly what I want. I need to start looking at the positives. That's when you know you're doing the right thing, when you're coaching people. That was really good because she looked at things from a different perspective. So have a think about what change might look like for those other people, and whatever feelings or thoughts come up do need to be included in a communication plan of any description and of any medium. So moving forward, as I come back again to acceptance, we do this by avoiding conflict, but that's another masterclass for another day. And creating collaborative workforces where communication is key and two-way, respecting our differences as diversities or gifts. That means others as well, not just our own. I got these up there. Yes, I do. All of this increases empathy and understanding, and always looking from multiple perspectives to get the best outcomes, whether you're dealing with personal, professional, or organisational change. It's super important to look at things from that perspective. And stimulate growth, be the change maker. And the other phrase I love is be the change you want to see in the world. Manage the transition, you can do that, and you'll survive crises seamlessly when you do stimulate the growth, because you then get involved with it, you buy into it and you want it, and you then have a little bit of control over it, which is what makes it more enjoyable. There's always a way to get some control into it. So finally, there's tons of quotes to finish up with. These are sort of a list of things I put together. Master the process, not the content. Find the difference that makes a difference. Practice being fully present and mindful. That helps hugely. Find your resourcefulness and believe in yourself. Always remember to look after yourself, have self-care, and have fun along the way. It's no joy if it's not fun, let's face it. So the quotes I wanted to share with you today, one is Henry Ford, and this is related to the believing in yourself, is whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And then there's Charlie Mackesy, who wrote The Boy, the Horse, the Mole, and the Fox. That's not in the right order, but I think you know who I mean on the book. So a quote from him from his next book is, one day you'll look back and realize how hard it was and just how well you did. It's a good bit of praise there. And last but not least, one of my favorite songs was by Hadaway, Life Will Never Be the Same. Life is changing. Look that one up and blast it out loud while you're doing the housework or something. So thank you for being here. This is a shameless plug for the next webinar, which is in May. Contact Simon or Emma about that, or me as well. I'm perfectly happy for you to get hold of me too. And there's my details up there. Did actually fix this slide after last time. So Dr. Seuss, another great quote. I do like a good quote. It's truer than true. There is no one alive who is truer than you. I'll have Mr. Word out. One day I'll do it right. It's truer than true. There is no one alive who is newer than you. Love it. And that's my little QR code if you wanted to scan it. So I'm going to stop sharing now and have a look in the chat.
Thank you, Ruth. I love that Dr. Seuss saying.
It's great, isn't it?
One of my favourites, yeah.
Yeah. Now, have I stopped sharing? Has that stopped?
Yeah, you've stopped sharing, yeah.
Super.
There are a couple of comments.
Yeah, welcome back, Jackie. Finding your tribe is so vital. Yes, it is, absolutely. Whatever you do in life, it's really important to find people who get you or are willing to grow with you. Caterpillar. Important to remember that it changes into a gooey mess in the cocoon before becoming a butterfly. Absolutely. Nothing wrong with being a gooey mess, especially if you've got your tribe around you to support you, because they will. Perfectly perfect. Yeah, being a gooey mess. I think I might change my words for future presentations on this. I'm going to embrace your gooey mess words, if that's all right. If I can have your permission to do that. Thank you, Jackie. Glad you enjoyed it. So last week we were asked a number of questions. The one that's probably most important to share, I think, is the book. So I was asked about books last week. Could I recommend any books about transition? There's two in particular. I've read lots of research papers as well, but that's not everybody's favourite things. But the two books would be Like It Is the Transitions and, oh, my mind's gone blank. My mind's gone blank. I will make sure that it goes out in the email with the link to the recording. Is that all right, Emma?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I'll ping those across to you. Menopausal moment, what can I say?
I've
only read these books times. Nothing if not authentic, hey?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. That's what we need to be.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. If there's no more questions, then we'll stop the recording for this time and thank Ruth again. And we'll see you all next time. Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.